Welcome to the exam preparation for SC-100, Microsoft Cybersecurity Architect. My name is Peter Detender, and I'm a Microsoft Technical Trainer. In this video series, we will guide you through the essential strategies for taking the SC-100 exam. Our focus here is on exam strategy and preparation, so we're not going to teach you concepts. We will cover the objectives, best practices, tips and tricks, and obviously key points that you need to know for the exam. This video will also include a lot of visual information for reference. So remember, you can pause the video at any time to review the content. This exam is designed for those who have advanced experience and knowledge in a wide range of security engineering areas. Also note that the SC-100 exam has a prerequisite for needing to pass another Azure security exam to earn that full Cybersecurity Architect Expert credential. So this can be the Azure 500 Microsoft Azure Security Technologies, SC-200 Security Operations Analyst, or SC-300 Identity and Access Administrator. The order in which you take the exam also doesn't really matter. However, if you only take the SC-100, you get the exam credential, not the full Cybersecurity Architect credential. Your path to becoming a Cybersecurity Architect Expert involves several steps. This video series is your comprehensive guide to exam preparation. It's covering essential topics and providing valuable study resources. Now be sure to also make use of labs, study guides, practice tests, and focus on the skills highlighted during the exam prep series to make sure that you are well prepared. Once you feel confident in your understanding of the content, I'm pretty sure it's time for you to go out and take that exam. This exam prep video series will help you with three key things. First one, identify what will be covered on the exam. Second, gaining insights into preparing for the exam. And then last, determining which concepts to prioritize or maybe revisit for your own further study. Now keep in mind, this series is not a replacement for official Microsoft training, whether instructor-led or self-paced, or it doesn't count as a substitute for hands-on experience. While it will guide you on what to expect on the exam, it won't teach you the topics in detail. Use it to spot any knowledge gaps and focus your time and resources accordingly. In this series, each episode will cover one of the four groups in the exam objective domains. For SC-100, these groups are: the first one, designing solutions that align with security best practices and priorities. Second, designing security operations, identity, and compliance capabilities. The third one focuses on designing security solutions for infrastructure. And the last and fourth one is focusing on designing security solutions for applications and data. Now, as you can see, each group has a specific weight, which indicates the percentage of questions that will come from each area. Group 2 here has the largest weight, but to pass the exam, you need to be familiar with skills in each and every of the four groups. Now let's dive into the content of this first episode, which focuses on designing solutions that align with security best practices and priorities. In this episode, we will cover how to design a resiliency strategy, specifically for ransomware and other attacks based on Microsoft security best practices. Second, designing solutions that align with Microsoft Cybersecurity Reference Architectures, or MCRA, as well as the Microsoft Cloud Security Benchmark, or MCSB. And then last, designing solutions that align with Microsoft Cloud Adoption Framework, CAF, or Microsoft Azure Well-Architected Framework, WAF. Now a little tip here, each of these acronyms has a Microsoft aka.ms short link. So you could navigate to aka.ms/CAF or /WAF or aka.ms/MCRA to get directed to the main page of the topic. And use that as a starting point for more learning information. Here is a list of all the different skills you may be tested on. Now these are sometimes referred to as may include, meaning that they may or may not be on your exam. This list isn't exhaustive, and while we won't be covering every single skill in this video, make sure you are able to perform these skills before taking the exam. Now also remember, you can snap a screenshot or pause the video to make sure you have all the details listed on this slide. Now, perfect security is almost unachievable, but it doesn't mean you cannot optimize your resiliency goals. So you need to understand the thought process, starting from the situation before the incident, during as well as after, but also understanding what is part of the feedback loop. For the exam, this means understanding how to do proper incident management. Also, make sure you're familiar with Microsoft best practices for ransomware protection, and always keep the focus on the business goal. For the exam, the exam most probably will bring in at least one case study where this will be applicable. Now, being technically up to speed will definitely help you going through the exam, but several questions will also challenge you on the relationship between technology and the business requirements. Make sure you read and understand the key ask of each question, and not selecting an answer based on assumptions. Within the scope of designing against ransomware attacks, apart from the security focus obviously, there are 3 other domains to watch over: backup, restore, and privileged access. Ransomware attacks or attackers promise you to return your data unencrypted, right? Now, once you pay that ransomware demand. But we don't have any or a lot of references, right, where companies actually do get the data back. So if your data gets compromised or is getting encrypted, make sure you can restore it from a clean situation. Solutions like Azure Backup, Azure Site Recovery should be top of mind, both for protecting Azure data resources, but also hybrid. Also, keep the zero trust concept of least amount of privileges as a top priority, even when trying to mitigate security attacks. I mean, you don't want to overexpose permissions to try and fix a security issue, which in the end would lead to maybe more security issues or more attacks by doing so. Over the next 3 slides, I'm highlighting several of the Microsoft listed best practices for cybersecurity capabilities and controls. I would recommend you to pause this video for a few minutes, and the same recommendation is valid for the next 2 slides actually, and really making yourself familiar with the different aspects of the MCRA in relation to protecting your organization and its workloads. So here to the right, you can see the MCSB, Microsoft Cybersecurity Benchmark control domain, and together with that, its security controls. Now please note that there are a lot of best practices, and there are only a few represented here, which for the exam again means you need to know how to design the Azure security features and tooling in relation to the guidelines. For example, in MCSB control domain endpoint security, here it says to use endpoint detection and response, which in your mind should translate to using Defender for endpoints, understanding how Microsoft Intune device management comes into the picture, but also seeing the relationship with, for example, conditional access. So what might start as an easy-looking example could easily grow to a more complex design question on the exam. Here is another example, more specifically related to the supply chain attacks and how to protect your organization against them. Supply chain attacks is where third-party tools or services are being used to infiltrate a target system or a network, so typically exploiting vulnerabilities in those systems. Where here to the left, it shows you the MCRA best practices, and to the right, again, you'll find the MCSB control domains and security controls. Zooming in on one example is using a combination of SIEM and XDR. What it means is that you need to know what those services are about, what their use case is, but also how to design and implement them. So what this actually means is you need to become proficient in understanding capabilities of solutions like Sentinel, obviously together with Azure Defender for Cloud. From this last overview slide here, you get the idea by now, I guess, it's again mapping best practices from MCRA and MCSB. You need to know them, understand them, being able to integrate them into your design questions. This brings us to the third and last objective in this first section, understanding CAF and WAF. The Cloud Adoption Framework, or CAF, is based on the lessons learned by using real-world experiences from real customers together with Microsoft's own security journey, as well as working together with organizations like NIST, Open Group, and the Center for Internet Security. The Azure well-architected framework, on the other side, is a set of guiding tenets that can be used to improve the quality of a workload and consists of 5 pillars, of which security is only one of them. Now keep that in mind because again we're in designing phase, which means focus on all the other ones apart from security as well. Now before we wrap up this session, allow me to highlight the message of this slide here, emphasizing that security is a lot more than just security. Know your escape plan, which here means understanding Microsoft Business Continuity and disaster recovery solutions for your cloud workloads. With that, we're at the end of this first section in the SC-100 Exam Prep series. This section focused on the first exam objective, designing solutions that align with security best practices and priorities. Be sure to join us for episode 2, where we will cover designing security operations, identity, and compliance capabilities. Thank you for watching.